What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative, where today is Friday, and on Fridays, I like to talk about all of the things that I have been reading over the past week. I like to share about the books that I finished, my closing thoughts on them, the ones that I'm working on, and the ones that I plan to stick my nose into next. So let's just dive right into what all happened this week. I had a bookshelf tour go up, finally going on 4 years on this channel. I put up a bookshelf tour. I have since made changes to it, as I always do. Anytime I start thinking about a bookshelf tour or I do one, I start thinking, what if I do it this way? It's already changed a little bit from when I filmed that video. I also have my review for Grady Hendrix' How to Sell a Haunted House go up on Wednesday. Both of those are on the channel if you want to check those out. So now let's talk about, what did I read this week? Well, the only book that I finished, because there was all kind of stuff that happened over this last week, as you are about to find out. I did not get a whole lot of reading done, but what I did finish is The Crew by Sadir S. Samir. This book is incredibly fun. It's everything you love about comics and manga. It just doesn't have the pictures. I picked it up because on the cover here, that looks like Inuyasha, which is one of my favorite anime ever. I've only read about half of the manga so far, but I absolutely love Inuyasha. So when I saw this character, whose name is Varcade, I thought, I'm gonna have to read that. I have been lovingly describing this as, if you took Inuyasha and you put him in the Fishman arc of One Piece and you gave him Monkey D. Luffy's appetite, that is Varcade in a nutshell. Such a fun book. Highly recommend it. This is a book that I will read many, many times. Anytime I need a laugh, I just want to have a good time, I want to break up some complex series perhaps that I'm reading, get out of a reading slump, if I just want to laugh, that's going to be the book that I'm going to pick up. Moving on from The Crew, what else did I get my nose into? Well, I have a book that I was reading for a secret project, a video that I'm working on for you guys that I ended up DNFing. Nothing was happening. Literally, nothing was happening. It had such an intriguing premise. It just was taking forever to develop. I think it might have been better as a short story. I don't even care how it ended. I couldn't do it. I DNF'd it. So more on that later. I have one more book to read for that video, so that one should be hitting the channel hopefully in the next couple of months. So that leads us right into, what am I still currently reading? I am still working my way through Robert Jordan's The Shadow Rising. Is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series. I haven't gotten to any good stuff yet. There's been a few interesting things introduced in regards to magical items, I would say, and places. That is probably my favorite thing about the Wheel of Time series. Robert Jordan keeps creating all these different types of magical abilities, items that were created using both the male and female sides of the one power. They're so interesting, they're so different, they're so unique. That is got to be my favorite thing about the Wheel of Time. You would think, with me being such a character-driven reader, it would be the characters that would have me addicted to this 14-15 book series. It's not. In fact, the characters are probably my least favorite thing about this series. I hardly like any of the characters, if I'm being truthful. There's about 3 or 4 that I have always loved from the beginning of the series to the end of the series, but the majority of the pack I can't stand for one reason or another. And I think because of the age that I am now reading it, it's because I never cared for the way the young people acted. It got on my nerves when I was 16, 17, 18 reading these books for the first time. It's gotten on my nerves every time I've reread the series. It still gets on my nerves today. Here and there throughout the series, there are some interesting parts of their arcs that I did enjoy, but I really think it's the world, the complex magic system, and the prophecies of the dragon that really held its allure for me. I did pick up and read another story out of James Flynn's A Bunch of Fives. The next story that I read, and this one was called Dataism, and this particular story, Dataism, is a look at how addicted social media is, what it could possibly progress to for us human. And I am not a fan of what it led to, and I would be just like the main character in this story, and I would be right there with him. It was equal parts horrifying and annoying because I could totally see this happening, and it'll be time for this girl to just go run with the wolves. I refuse to be a part of and live in a society that gets that into sharing and uploading every aspect. As it is, I don't spend hardly any time on social media. I have my book accounts that I get on there. I share about what I'm reading for people that are looking for that. There are people like me who use social media to find books, to discover authors, to read reviews, to see what people out there are reading, to discover even more books and authors. There are people like me, and that's why I share. I do not get on there to read the news. Depending on who it is, all of their information is going to be skewed toward whatever the beliefs of that company is. Same for politics. As much as I love to eat, I don't want to see pictures of your food. All it's going to do is make me hungry and want it, and most of the time I can't go get that. I do like animal pictures. My recent obsession is chickens and hens and roosters. I don't know. I can't explain it. I blame my best friend Heather. But what else have I been reading? I've still been working my way through Damon Manx's new collection called Manxiety. It is a short story horror collection that is based on truth. Things that happened to this author. It's really a memoir, and it has been fascinating. Anytime you take truth and wrap it in fiction, I just eat that stuff up. I have read several of the stories, 8 or 9 maybe. I have loved every single one of them. I've been sharing about them each day when I read one on my Instagram. I'll put a little mini review or perhaps a quote from the story. Same thing for A Bunch of Five. So if you're interested in seeing more about both of these collections, head on over to my Instagram where you can check that out. Which leads us to the last thing that I am working on, T. Kingfisher's Nettle and Bone. I started this book yesterday. Actually, that's a lie. I started it day before yesterday. I read one chapter before bed. And then yesterday, I got 75% of the way through this book. And if I could have stayed awake to finish it, I would have. It is killing me right now to not be finishing this book. And as soon as I turn that camera off, I am going to be finishing this book. I never know what to expect with T. Kingfisher, which is part of what the allure is for her and why I don't read book descriptions. Because is it going to be fantasy? Is it going to be horror? One thing I know is going to happen in a T. Kingfisher story, there's going to be some great humor. This author is so skilled at putting in the right amount of humor where it needs to go, and I have just loved it. It all centers around this one particular character in this story who is simply known as the Dust Wife, and I have just been living for her. After years of seeing her sister suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy, convent-raised, third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except Mara herself. It's like an anti-fantasy tale where she's not wanting to marry a prince, she's wanting to kill a prince. None of that is a spoiler. Yeah, find it out in the very first chapter. And speaking of first chapter, so once I finished one of my recent audiobooks, I decided the next one I was going to start, because it came in from the library, was the audiobook for Nettle and Bone. So I fired it up. I was in the car headed to get a haircut. I turned it off less than a minute in because this was not one I wanted to listen to. Nothing against the audiobook narrator. She was perfectly fine. It was me. I knew from the way that this started out, this was prose I wanted to put my eyes to. And I just couldn't stop turning these pages. I read 200 pages of this book yesterday. I couldn't put it down. My eyes were just racing across the page, and I'm not a fast reader. And once I got into it really good yesterday, I did add the audiobook back to it for an immersion read and just have absolutely loved this story. So if you are a fan of stories like the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden, there's another one called Vassia in the Sky, perhaps? No, it's Vassia something. If you like fairy tales, dark retellings, twisted tales, I think you would love this one. Of course, if you're a fan of T. Kingfisher, I'm sure it's already on your TBR. But I am absolutely loving this one. Now that takes care of everything that I've read, what I'm currently working on, what am I going to read next? I'm going to be going right into John Palladino's Buzzard's Bowl. That's the second book in the Tragedy of Sedaine series. It's highly anticipated. highly anticipated. Actually, I'll probably be starting that one today. It's one of those, I've been anticipating it ever since I finished the Trials of Ashmount. But I'm also, now that it's here, I'm scared to start it because I want so much from it. And I'm like, girl, you need to get them expectations down and just trust the author. So I'm going to be starting that one. And I want to say that one is 700, 800 pages. I've got my in-laws coming in a couple of days, and they're going to be here for a while, so I'm not going to have as much time as I normally do to read. So I'm not quite sure if I'll be able to knock that one out before I update you all next week. But if I do, the next book that I'm going to be starting is Joseph Sells' Beyond the Black Gate. Look at this cover. This whole series has amazing covers. There's a lot of times certain books of certain series will have great covers, but they don't all have great covers. This is a series, Book of Thrice Dead. Every cover is just amazing. I am so excited to get into this one. Book 1 was so intriguing. Book 2 was even better. The third book is where the multiverse really starts getting developed and shown how things are going to work. It was my favorite book of the series. And then the fourth book blew my mind. So now I am so excited to see what Joseph Sells is going to do in this fifth book. I can't predict anything. I cannot predict anything. I wish I had a fourth of the talent Joseph Sells has. Just the scope of his imagination and creative genius in writing this is just, I can't. But that is going to do it for me for this week. I didn't get to read a whole lot because I have no idea. I wasted a whole lot of time doing something. I don't know, but I didn't read a whole lot, and I know I won't be reading a whole lot over this next week because I'm going to have family in town. But at any rate, I will still be here next week to tell you what I did read, at least give you an update on Buzzard's Bowl, how The Shadow Rising is treating me, and maybe even getting to dip my toes into Beyond the Black Gate. I hope you all have had a wonderful week. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next one.